Good morning, guys. Welcome. This is the Anfield Review Podcast. I'm Owen James, and this is your Liverpool news update. Look, it doesn't get any better this morning, does it? I think, looking at the game as it was last night, it does not get any better. And look, my views have not changed on the manager. He needs to go, whether that's today, which I think is very unlikely, or whether it's before the end of the season, which I honestly believe is the only way to save this season. If Liverpool are going to finish in this top five to get Champions League football and do it, reasonably comfortably, then for me the manager's got to go. And people say, well, who do you bring in? Well, Xabi Alonso, he hasn't got a job. Steven Gerrard to the end of the season. I think Gerrard would give them more fire, more fight, more battle than certainly Arne Slot is currently giving them. I think we'll reflect on the game a little bit, reflect on Arne Slot's comments, and reflect on what it is, tonight in terms of the games tonight and how they may impact Liverpool, going into the next round of Premier League games when they come up. Obviously, the FA Cup is on Friday against Wolves again, and you know what? Surely they can't win twice in a week, can they? I don't know. If they perform like that, every chance they do. Look, I've got to say, without fear of being, I think, contradicted by anyone, that these two, again, last night were absolutely diabolical, absolutely dreadful. I thought Mo Salah was a lot worse than Cody Gakpo. I think he probably escapes some of the criticism because of the fact that he gets that goal, a lucky goal, a goal that, really Salah should be saving. But he didn't look bothered, he looked lost. And look, I'm not going to sit here this morning and absolutely slag him off. But what I'm going to say is this. As Steve Nichols said the other day, the drop-off in Mo Salah is scary. It is frightening. He just looked unable to control the ball last night. He looked unable to take a man on. He looked unable to go past the man. He looked to have lost all his pace, all his strength, everything. He just even seems to have lost his decision-making abilities. There was the breakaway in the second half where he threw through, and we've got two players to the right-hand side. Szoboszlai is going into the area completely unmarked. You feed him in, he probably scores at that point. And Salah delays, and then he plays the pass and it's blocked by Bueno. Salah of last season doesn't do that. He really doesn't. And there was the shot as well, the first time shot that he had on his left foot with that corner routine that was well worked between Sobo and Maka. And he just blazes it over. Again, last season, he at least works the goalkeeper in that situation. The fall-off is frightening. The fall-off from this man is frightening. Cody Gakpo, for once, wasn't the worst player on the pitch. He was the second worst player on the pitch. Again, look, I like Cody. Last season, I sung Cody's praises. I talked positively about Cody last season. I genuinely don't get what the manager sees in this player that keeps him being picked week in, week out. He does the same thing every single game, and defenders know exactly what he's going to do. He's going to cut in, he's going to try and shoot or cross on his right foot after he's cut in, and 9 times out of 10, that is blocked. It's even getting to the point now where Milos is making runs outside of him to create the overlap, and he's just completely ignoring him time and time again. Steven Gerrard, speaking post-game, basically said, what does Rio Ngamoa have to do to get a game? What does he do to have to start? Now, I'm not sitting here this morning and telling you that Rio Ngamoa is the second coming of Steve McManaman, or is the second coming of Sadio Mane, or second coming of the second coming of any outstanding winger you can name. But he did more and was more lively in that time that he was on the park. He has that shot that hits the post. He creates the chance for Virgil. He did more in that point of time. Now, the other thing about Ngamoa is he can go outside, he can go inside, he can go onto his left foot, he can go onto his right foot. He is both-footed. Gakpo isn't. Gakpo is predictable. And teams know that. Teams know that. They just show him outside the whole time, and he'll try and cut back in, and he'll be blocked. And I've had a comment from a commenter on another channel this morning. I was watching Anfield Agenda this morning, and obviously I was watching David Lynch, who to me is just losing it. And he said basically that when we start with Gakpo and Salah, it's like playing with 9 men. And I agree, it is like playing with 9 men. And look, I think that people talk about what do you do instead? What is the solution? Well, for me, you put Frimpong at right wing. He's not the greatest right winger, but at least he's got pace to go past people, and Liverpool are lacking pace, massively lacking pace in those attacking areas. And you put Ngamoa on the left. nothing for me is saying that Gakpo and Salah deserve to continue to play for the club, at this moment in time, because their form is dreadful. Their production is non-existent. Wingers are there to create chances. Wingers are there to chip in with goals. Wingers are there to be the catalysts for chance creation in the final third. And at the moment, Gakpo and Salah are contributing absolutely nothing to this game at all. And, that's not just on them. That's on the manager. That is on the manager as well. To me, the manager, that's not the manager, that the manager is showing zero courage and zero accountability for players. He's not holding players accountable, at all for poor performances. And you can talk about lack of squad depth, but in this case, it's not an excuse. He's got players who can play there. He just won't play them. He just won't use them. So again, this is on the manager as well as on the players. The manager is making bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. And I'll be honest with you, if you're only going to make one change last night, I would take Salah off, not Gakpo off. Gakpo was bad, yes, agreed, but Salah was worse. And I think the manager's actually got to the point now where he's actually scared of Mohamed Salah. He's scared to make those changes. He's scared to take Salah off to some degree, to drop Salah, given those comments that Salah made. I believe, rightly or wrongly, and I might be completely wrong on this one, that there is still a divide in the dressing room. That the dressing room are not united behind this manager. They are not united behind the goal for this season because the manager has pissed quite a lot of them off. And you can only got to see that with the play. Some of these players, to me, don't look like they give a shit. They really don't look like they give a toss. They don't look like they care. And that starts with the manager. That's the classics. And people can say, well, no, it's not. It's the players. No, it is the manager. Because when a manager loses a dressing room, that's when the players down tools and give this whole, I don't really give a shit. I'll try, but not going to try as hard as I can try. I'll roll around on the floor and lie there for a bit. When I get injured, I won't bother getting back up and trying to sprint back when I'm not 100% injured, as we saw from Maka and Szoboszlai last night. Salah not trying, not fighting, not battling. Again, look, I think a lot of it is that the manager has lost the dressing room big time on this situation. Alisson, I think, has come in for a lot of unfair criticism this morning from some. I was reading a comment from Steve Hoare of the Red Men TV. I mean, personally, I don't like the Red Men TV. I love Chloe Bloxham. I think she's brilliant, by the way. And Abby Rudkin, brilliant. But because they're the two most honest people on there. But I think some of the Red Men TV are too much up the club's arse. I think they really are. Too scared that they're going to lose their access. Too scared that they're going to lose their chance to talk to Liverpool legends. I think that's definitely the case. But look, I mean, he talked about the fact that that's on Ali last night. No, it's not. It's not on Alisson at all. It was on Curtis Jones. I mean, what was Curtis Jones doing in that corner? He's dicking around with the ball. Instead of putting his boot through it, he rolls it back to Alisson, puts Alisson under unnecessary pressure. Alisson then has to make a hurried clearance, which, look, Alisson's kicking has not been great this season. I'm not saying it has, but he puts him in a position where Alisson is uncomfortable and cannot make the clearance that he needs to make. And it's a massive mistake. And it's down to Curtis dicking around with the ball again. And look, I've been one of Curtis's biggest defenders. Go back and watch the videos on this channel. Go back and look at how I've stuck up for Curtis. Check out some of my, comments on X. I've stuck up for Curtis. But last night, Curtis, to me, looked like, again, the player who hasn't really developed, hasn't really grown up, and still thinks he's a young lad pretending to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, pretending to be the year 11 playing the year 7s, and he's not that. And I think a big decision will have to be made on Curtis and his future, this summer. I think it will. As for the manager, look, even the cold light of day, you look at some of these guys' comments post-game, and he just does nothing to take responsibility himself for bad performances, for poor performances. Jurgen Klopp, say one thing about Jurgen would be that he would always take responsibility when he felt it was his fault. He would say, yep, that's on me, that's my mistake, and not throw the players under the bus, even sometimes when it wasn't the players. It was him, but or even when it was the players, sometimes he would take the blame as well. He was very good at deflecting blame. He looked after his players. Slot won't do that. Slot basically will never take the blame for anything. I think one of the biggest hypocrisies for me is that he sat there the other day and absolutely slaughtered the Premier League and the standard of football in the Premier League and the boring nature of the Premier League football, and then goes out and puts out that performance that to me was a team that had no shape, no style, no clue what it was supposed to be doing, no formation, nothing. And that's on him. That is on him. That's on how he coaches, how he motivates, and how he puts the team out there. You know, I don't get it. You know, I really don't get what he is talking about a lot of time when he talks as well. I mean, he talked about, obviously he was asked about being unable to break down Wolves' defence in the first half, and the first half performance was abject. It was absolutely abject. He said, well done by Wolves. They made it hard for us, compact in the first half, I think. And it's also a bit showed them at half time and told them that it was possible to play a bit faster from side to side. Well, no, it's not actually side to side, Arne. You have to play football. If you're going to win games, it's direct, it's forward motion. Why are we playing side to side or even faster side to side, which makes no sense to me? And if you play a bit faster than the few times that we did in the first half, our wingers at least have some time to take their fullback on. The wingers can't take the fullback on, Arne, because Cody won't take his fullback on because he won't go outside because he hasn't got a left foot. And Mo Salah can't get past his man anymore because he hasn't got the pace to do that. So again, utter rubbish from the manager. I think that happened in the second half better than the first half. That's why we came closer and closer. I don't know what game he was watching. I didn't remember Salah or Gakpo going past their men at all. I remember Rio doing it, but certainly not that. We had more crosses or penetrated more in the box than we did in the first half, but it's not hard, Arne, when we didn't do anything in the first half. But then finishing off those moments and picking the right player in front of the goal when you arrive. So slow and predictable are words that I can understand. Virgil van Dijk uses. That's a comment that Virgil made post-game. But if you want to go faster, you have to be able to dominate situations on the sides. Then something can happen. We struggled to dominate on the sides. We struggled to dominate across the whole pitch, Arne. It wasn't just on the sides. And I think a lot of it, why we couldn't get down the side, Arne, was because of your persistence with two of the worst wingers in the Premier League this season. He was then asked about this. He said he was asked about whether losing games like this changes his expectation for the season as a whole. He says, no, my expectations have changed throughout the season because I expected more from us than where we are fighting now. Yeah, agreed. But it's another setback and we didn't help ourselves with the result. But there's still 8 Premier League games to play, so we're coming closer to the end and then dropping points in a game where it's absolutely not necessary if you look at the run of play. It wasn't that we played so great, I'm not saying that, but if we play this game in this fashion 10 times, I don't think we'll lose 10 times. I don't know, Arne. I think if we play that way 10 times out of 10, we're probably going to struggle to win the majority of those games, playing slow, boring, dull, predictable football, playing non-aggressive football, playing with wingers who can't beat a man, playing with wingers who don't create chances. It's far from sure that we win every time because therefore we are not good enough. If we don't want to rely on a deflected shot, we need to do better. We have to play better. We do, and that's down to you. We've had enough chances to win the game, but credit to Wolves as well. They fought from the first, second until the end and got maybe a little bit of luck. It wasn't luck, Arne. It was just the fact that our team did not put in the effort and made too many stupid errors. I just think he doesn't have a grasp on what is actually going on in this situation. He genuinely doesn't. It's slow, it's boring, it's predictable, it's easy to play against. And look, one thing that really gets to me is the defenders of Slot will come out and say, oh, it's a transition season, yada, yada, yada. It's not a transition season. It was never meant to be a transition season. If you look at when the transition season narrative started, it was when Liverpool started doing badly. At the start of the season, the conversation after the signings of Wirtz and Isak, etc., was this is building a team to compete on all 4 fronts, a team to win on all 4 fronts, a team to win the Champions League, to win the Premier League, etc., etc. That was the narrative in the summer from Hughes, from Edwards, and from Slot. Go back and check it out. The narrative changed when Liverpool started to do badly to this is a transition season. It was never meant to be a transition season. It is not a transition season. It is an excuse that is being used by happy clappers and by those in the club to defend poor performance. End of story. If you're one of those people saying this is a transition season, you are an apologist for failure, an apologist for pathetic mediocrity, and you need to have a long, hard look at yourself for that comment. Tonight, obviously, we've got to hope that Newcastle can do us a favour and beat Manchester United, and perhaps the Chelsea-Villa game ends in a draw. Liverpool could actually be as low as 6th tonight if Chelsea were to beat Villa tonight, which, look, is a possibility. And Man United could be 6 points clear of us, which is just a disgrace for a team that are just not up to it. And I'm sick to death of taking it from Man United fans. My brother-in-law is a Man United fan, my stepson's a Man United fan, and it's constantly, it's doing my head in. Honestly, the only way to save this season now for me is to get rid of the manager, because his comments, his tactics just show that he is so out of touch. It's actually frightening. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments in the cold light of day after last night's abysmal Liverpool defeat. Thanks for watching. Catch you soon.